Hello, everyone. It's Carolyn here. Welcome back to our series of lessons on Germany in the 20s and 30s. And we're in 1923 in Germany, and the poor Weimar Republic has had an absolutely terrible time of it. The first 5 years are just awful. And what we're going to look at this lesson is sort of the end of the awfulness. So from next lesson, it's going to start to get better. But for the moment, we're not done yet with the poor misery for the Weimar Republic. It's about to get even worse. So, lesson 7, what were the effects of hyperinflation on Germany? So, we touched on this at the end of last lesson, kind of very briefly said about how the invasion of the Ruhr led on to hyperinflation. So, let's have a look at that today. So your success criteria, you can explain how hyperinflation affected different sections of German society. So just first, just a little recap on what we were doing last lesson. So there's a source. Don't forget in the exam, if they give you a source with German writing, they will translate it for you. If they don't, it's because the German writing isn't significant. Like it's not something you need to know. But there's no expectation that you understand German. So the message down the bottom says hands off the Ruhr. So what is the message of the source? What is the artist trying to say? Okay, so the Ruhr is the industrial area. It's part of Germany, and we can see it down the bottom of the picture. So industrial just means they make lots of things. So there are lots of factories. And we can see down the bottom of the picture the chimneys, bits of factory. And then, if we remember, the Treaty of Versailles said that Germany had to pay money to France. Germany can't pay, so the French invade. And that's what the invasion of the Ruhr is. So France is drawn as this woman at the top, with the wild eyes and the wild hair. And you can see her hand, she's clutching at the Ruhr. So she is France. She's holding a gun. You can see there the helmet that's kind of landed on the Ruhr. That's a French helmet from World War One. So this was a source that comes from the German government at the time, and it's showing their sort of criticism of the invasion of the Ruhr, how bad they thought France invading was. So the French invade the Ruhr and they start taking goods in back to France in place of the money that Germany is supposed to be paying them. And if you remember, the German people go on strike and they're like, we're not going to work for the French, we're not going to create things just for France to take them from us. And the Weimar Republic supports them in this. And they very briefly become quite popular, the Weimar Republic, because they're supporting the strikers. But obviously, those strikers aren't working, so they're not getting paid. So there needs to be a way to give them money so that they can pay their rent, pay for food. So what the German government does is they start paying the strikers directly. And they don't have the money to do this. So they come up with the disastrous idea that they are just going to print more money. And that leads us on to hyperinflation. So we're going to look at the impact on German economy. So what it does, prices go up. You don't need to understand the economics any more than that. So inflation, prices go up. Hyperinflation, prices go up super quickly. You don't need to know anything more than it's caused by them printing more money. You can't do that because it makes the prices go up a lot. So if you're in March 1918, one loaf of bread, that's a little advert there for Hovis, there are other bread people, bread suppliers available. In March 1918, a loaf of bread is going to set you back half mark, 0.5 marks. By June 1923, it's 1,465 marks. And that is crazy, isn't it? So 5 years' time, something that cost 50p today will cost almost £1,500. It's that equivalent. By November 1923, it's that many marks. which is huge. Obviously, nobody has that many marks. So marks is just the German currency. So instead of pounds or dollars, they have marks. Nobody has that kind of money. So people day to day get by trading things. So I've got potatoes, you've got eggs. I swap some of my potatoes for your eggs, that kind of thing. But what it means, money becomes absolutely worthless. So you can see the gentleman on the left, he's got like a wheelbarrow trolley thing. That's all of his savings from the bank that he's taking out. And what that could buy him is almost nothing. So money becomes worthless. So you see other uses for it. So in the middle, the children are using it as building blocks. It was quite common to see children being given wadges of cash to just play building with because the money is absolutely worthless. The lady on the right, what she's doing, she's burning money. So the money will produce, if she burns it, she'll get more fuel than she will if she spends that money on fuel. So if you imagine you sort of come home one day and there are your parents burning £20 notes, £50 notes, it's that level of craziness. So a really bad time for Germany at the end of a long few years of bad times, hyperinflation. So there are some winners, and this is really important to remember because often in exams people focus on the losers. So if you owe someone money, this is going to be okay for you. So you owe someone £100, well, that's fine. People are giving wads of cash to their kids to play banknotes with. You can collect, you can hand them back. So that's going to make it easier for you to pay off your loans. Also, if you're a farmer, you're going to do quite well because you're making food, whatever it is you're growing or you're farming. People need that. So people will trade things with you for that. There are some losers though. Anyone on a fixed income. So you still get exactly the same amount of money for your job as you did the year before, but it won't buy anything like what it was. But the big one, anyone with savings. So anyone who had money in the bank, like that man we saw in that first photograph, anyone who lent money to someone, for example, the government, they are going to lose that money. So you might have the equivalent of, say, £20,000 in your savings account. Overnight, that will become worthless. So you could have spent 10 years, 20 years saving up everything you've saved, you will lose. And they never get it back. Even when they sort of solve the issue of hyperinflation in the next few lessons, those people will never get that money back. So if you are a saver, this is a dreadful time for you. So what you need to know for the exam is how it impacted different members of society. So who really suffers, who kind of comes off okay-ish. So the very richest in society actually do okay because yes, they have money in the bank they lose, but they own land, which they can charge people rent for. They have expensive possessions, cars, silver, things they can trade. Often they invested in foreign money, which was fine. It was only the German economy that suffered like this. So if you had your money in a foreign bank, say America, you were okay. If you had foreign bank accounts, your money was absolutely safe. If you had lots of assets and you could afford it, this is actually quite a good time to buy up smaller businesses where people have gone bankrupt. So it seems like a horrible idea to sort of profit from someone else's misery. But there were people at this time who were taking the opportunity to buy up things from people who'd gone bankrupt. So as long as you could last a couple of years, you would be okay if you were rich. So life afterwards would go on pretty much as normal. On the other end of the spectrum, but kind of similar position, the very poor, they actually had less than most to lose because they didn't have money in the first place. So they don't have hundreds of marks sat in a savings account. So it didn't become worthless. Often they find it harder to buy food to feed their families, but wages and unemployment benefits do go up in an attempt to counteract the prices. So yes, it is harder. They are struggling to buy food, but they are managing. And if you're a farmer and those in the countryside, you're going to be in a very different position from those in towns and cities. So you could ride out those years living on a farm. You grow, you eat your own food. You don't need to spend money as much. You could get through it. So it's not going to be pleasant for anyone, but they are getting through it. The next two groups are really going to suffer. So pensioners, so older people living on fixed pensions, people who lived on their savings, so not every job gave a pension at this time. So maybe they'd worked all their lives, they saved up, they were going to live off their savings, they're now worthless. So they're going to have to go back to work. So there's an example there, monthly payments. There's a source from someone who said that the monthly payments made him really comfortable. He had a comfortable life. Then the amount he got in 1 month could buy him 1 cup of coffee. And then the big ones, the people who are really hard hit are the middle classes. So the ones who suffer most are the middle class, largely because their money was invested in banks. So they're not rich enough to buy up tracts of land or buy houses to rent out. Their money, their savings is in the banks. Many started small businesses in the hope that they would grow larger and more profitable over time. Savings were worthless, businesses were destroyed. So another example, those that had enough savings to buy a house in 1921 could only afford a loaf of bread with that money in 1923. And they will never come back from that. They won't get that money back. So just have a think then. How did hyperinflation impact different members of society? So question number one, what impact would hyperinflation have on the Weimar Republic? So remember the Weimar Republic is just the government. And then number two, which group was most impacted by hyperinflation and why? So just pause the video for a moment. So number one, hyperinflation gets blamed on the Weimar government, and fairly. So the Weimar government does cause hyperinflation. They end up printing more money to pay the strikers in the Ruhr Valley. As a result, there's hyperinflation. So everyone in Germany is understandably very angry with the government, the Weimar Republic. Which group was most impacted by hyperinflation? This is the middle classes because their savings are most in the bank. And the issue for the Weimar Republic is the middle classes are their big voters. They are their big support group. So rich people in Germany at this time tended to be further right wings. Maybe they wanted the Kaiser back. They wanted more traditional. They weren't necessarily a fan of the Weimar Republic anyway. Poorer people could be attracted by other parties such as communist parties, socialist parties. Most middle class people, though, are Weimar Republic supporters. That's where the support comes from, up until hyperinflation ruins the savings of all those middle classes. So, the last series of lessons, it's been going from bad to worse for poor Weimar Republic. They have now absolutely hit rock bottom. Next lesson, I'm going to tell you how they come out the other side.